For many years, the old ship had remained silent. It rested deep in the mountain valley of the planet Ilaria, surrounded by shining rocks and soft winds. The people of Ilaria called it the Silent Ship. No one knew where it came from. Some believed it was from a lost alien race. Others said it was a gift from the stars, but no one could open it. No one could even make it move. Kylara had grown up near the valley. She had studied the ship since she was a small child. Now, as a young alien scientist, she was one of the few allowed to be near it. Every day, she sat in front of the ship, watching, learning, scanning it with tools. It was her life's work, but still, the ship gave her nothing. No signals, no lights, no sound, just silence. Then one day a group of visitors arrived from Earth. They came as guests, part of a peaceful mission to learn and explore. Among them was a human named Ryan Chase. He was not a scientist. He was a pilot, calm, curious, and always asking questions. Kylara didn't think much of him at first. He smiled too much and didn't seem serious. Why was a pilot even here? Ryan saw the ship and asked if he could go near it. Kylara gave him a look. "You can look," she said, "but it won't do anything. No one has ever made it react." He nodded, thanked her, and walked up to the ship. His footsteps were quiet. The valley wind blew gently across the sand. He reached out and placed his hand on the surface of the ship. Kylara turned away for a moment, checking her scanner. Then, something strange happened. The lights on the ship turned on. Blue lines began to glow across the surface, moving like flowing water. The scanners in Kyara's hands started to beep fast. She looked up in shock. "What did you do?" she asked. Ryan stepped back, eyes wide. "I just touched it." The lights grew brighter. A soft sound came from the ship like music, or maybe a voice trying to speak. The ground under them hummed gently. Birds flew from the nearby trees, sensing something had changed. Kylara ran forward and placed her hand on the ship too. Nothing happened. No light responded to her touch. She looked at Ryan. "It's only reacting to you," she said. "I don't understand," he whispered. "I didn't do anything special." The ship, silent for 2,000 years, suddenly opened its front hatch with a slow, smooth motion. A warm light poured out from inside. Everyone watching stood frozen. Kyara's heart raced. Her people had tried everything to open this ship. They used machines, codes, even energy pulses. Nothing worked. But now, this human, he had done it without trying. She stepped back slowly and stared at him. "Who are you, really?" Ryan looked nervous. "Just a pilot," he said. A soft voice came from the ship. It spoke in a language older than anything Kylara had studied, but somehow they both understood it. Pilot recognized. "Welcome home." Ryan looked at Kylara. "Did you hear that?" She nodded slowly. It spoke. Inside the ship, the lights continued to glow. A gentle breeze blew from the open hatch. It felt warm, like the ship was alive again. Ryan walked forward, unsure if he should go inside. Kylara didn't stop him. She was still trying to understand what was happening. "This ship has been waiting," she said softly, more to herself than to him. But waiting for what? Or maybe, for who? She looked at the human walking up the ramp. He didn't seem like anyone special, but the ship had chosen him. Out of thousands, out of all life on this world, it waited for him. The scientists and guards behind her began talking quickly, asking questions, calling for higher command. But Kylara didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the ship. For years, she believed the ship was a puzzle, a mystery to solve. Now, she wasn't sure. Maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was a key, and Ryan Chase was the only one who could turn it. The light from the ship grew brighter. The soft voice spoke again, this time more clearly. "Systems online. Preparing for awakening." Kylara took a deep breath. Everything was changing. And it all started with a simple human pilot, who just wanted to take a closer look. The ship's lights continued to glow softly as Ryan stood just inside the entrance. He didn't touch anything. He didn't speak. He only looked around in silence, trying to understand what was happening. The walls of the ship shimmered like liquid metal, gently pulsing with blue light, as if the ship was breathing. Outside, Kylara remained still. She had seen many strange things in her work, but nothing like this. The ancient ship had never responded to anyone in her world, not once. It had sat like a frozen statue, still and cold. And now, because of one human, it had come alive. The scanners around the valley showed energy levels rising slowly. But there was no danger, no shaking ground, no heat. Just a soft vibration in the air, like something was finally waking up after a long, quiet sleep. Ryan looked back at Kalira. He wanted to say something, but words didn't come. He wasn't afraid, but he wasn't calm either. Everything felt strange, but familiar at the same time, as if he had been here before, even though he never had. Kalira walked up the ramp slowly. Her steps were careful, respectful. She didn't know what would happen if she went inside, but she couldn't stay back anymore. She had studied this ship for years. She had written books about its possible purpose, and now it was no longer a mystery, it was an experience. She reached the edge of the doorway and looked at Ryan. "Do you feel anything?" she asked softly. He nodded. "It feels like ... it knows me." She stepped inside. The moment she crossed the doorway, the ship responded again. A soft hum passed under her feet, and lights along the walls followed her steps. The ship didn't reject her, but it didn't welcome her either. It only seemed ... aware. The inside of the ship wasn't made of wires or switches. There were no control panels, no buttons, no screens, just smooth walls and soft lights that shifted with every movement. It felt alive, but not in a way they could explain. "Where do we go?" Kalira asked, her voice low. Before Ryan could answer, the ship answered for them. A circular hallway lit up ahead, guiding them forward. They followed the light slowly, their footsteps almost silent on the floor. The air inside was clean, almost too clean. It didn't smell like metal or dust or oil. It had no smell at all. The deeper they went, the more peaceful it felt. Kalira began to think aloud. "This technology is not like anything my people use. It's not mechanical. It feels ... natural. Like it grows instead of being built." Ryan nodded. "Yeah, like it's listening." They reached a large central chamber. In the middle was a platform, floating a few inches above the floor. On the platform, a chair-like shape began to rise slowly from the ground. It looked like it was forming itself just for him. Ryan didn't sit, he just looked at it. "Is that for me?" Kalira looked around. "I don't see another one." Before either of them could decide what to do next, the voice returned. It was soft and calm, but now it spoke with clear purpose. "Memory, recovery, in progress. Human presence detected. Lineage match confirmed." Kalira frowned. "Lineage." The lights in the room shifted. A projection appeared in the air, a series of symbols, stars, and ancient maps. The galaxy, but not as it looked today. This was a star map from the past. A very old past. The ship was showing them where it had come from. Ryan stared at the map, his eyes locked on one corner of the display. A star system appeared there, marked with glowing lines, and next to it, a planet that looked familiar. "That's Earth," he said quietly. Kalira's heart skipped. "Your planet. It's on the ship's original map." She stepped closer to the projection, looking for details. The symbols were not in any known language, yet she could understand some of them through thought, not translation. The ship was helping her read. "It says this ship was built before the fall," she whispered. Ryan looked at her. "The fall." Kalira turned toward him. "There are old stories. My people say there was once a time when the stars were connected, a time when different worlds shared knowledge, traveled together. But something happened. Everything stopped. Travel ended, and all records were lost." Ryan took a deep breath. "You think this ship is from that time?" Kalira nodded slowly. "I don't think. I know now." The ship's lights grew slightly dimmer, as if it was resting between thoughts. A soft sound, almost like a heartbeat, echoed through the chamber. "Calm. Steady." Ryan stepped closer to the chair, still unsure. "Why me? Why not someone from your world?" Kalira didn't answer right away. Her eyes were on the glowing map. "Maybe it's because your people were part of the beginning," she said. "And now, you're meant to be part of the return." Ryan stood in silence, watching the projection. The ship wasn't just waking up. It was remembering something. Something old. Something it had waited a very long time to share. And now, it had found someone to listen. The soft heartbeat-like sound continued to echo through the chamber, gentle and steady, like a song from the past trying to reach them. The projection of the galaxy remained in the air, slowly spinning, filled with points of light. Some of the stars on the map were marked with glowing circles, but many were dim, as if they no longer shined. Ryan stepped closer to the map, his hand hovering near one of the symbols. The ship responded by highlighting it. A soft beam of light, formed around the star, and new symbols appeared beside it, words from an ancient time. Yet somehow he could understand their meaning: origin, departure, silence. Kalira watched carefully. She had never seen technology like this. The ship didn't use commands, buttons, or control systems. It responded to presence, thought, feeling. It was more like a living thing than a machine. It listened, it guided, and now it was teaching. This ship wasn't just lost, Kalira said slowly. It was hiding. Ryan looked at her. Hiding from what? She shook her head. I don't know, but I think it left something behind, and now it's trying to bring it back. They both turned as the lights shifted again. This time, a doorway appeared on the other side of the room. It had not been there before. Without speaking, the two of them walked toward it. The hallway beyond was narrow and curved, its walls glowing softly as they moved. The hum under their feet was stronger here, but still calm. It felt like they were being guided towards something important. That as they walked deeper into the ship, small lights lit up on the walls, showing strange carving symbols and shapes they had never seen. Some looked like planets, others like people. One image showed a group of figures standing around a large glowing orb. Another showed the orb breaking apart, its pieces flying across the stars. Ryan stopped and stared at that carving for a long moment. Do you think that's Earth? He asked quietly. Kalira studied it. It might be, or it might be the place where everything began. They reached the end of the hallway. Another door opened slowly in front of them, revealing a small chamber filled with glowing panels and a large circular window. The window didn't look out into space, it looked into a strange glowing field, like light and memory mixed together. The voice returned, softer this time, almost like a whisper. Memory archive available. Begin transfer. Ryan looked at Kalira. Should I say yes? Kalira paused. It's asking permission. That means it respects you, I think. It's offering you its story. Ryan nodded slowly. Okay, yes, begin. The light in the chamber changed. The room dimmed slightly, and the glowing field outside the window grew brighter. Slowly, images began to form in the air between them. They saw cities among the stars, great ships moving through space without engines, powered by thought and harmony. People from many worlds working together, sharing knowledge, growing. But then the images shifted. The stars darkened, the cities vanished, the people disappeared, and the ship was alone. The next images showed the ship moving through space, passing empty planets and cold stars. It was searching for something, or someone, a connection, a signal, a voice that would wake it. And then the ship stopped. It found a quiet world with blue skies and tall mountains. Kalira's world. It landed gently and waited. For years, for centuries, until now. The images faded slowly, leaving the room in soft light once again. Ryan was quiet. He looked overwhelmed, but not afraid. It was trying to survive, he said. All this time, Kalira nodded, and now it wants to be part of something again. They turned back to the window. The glowing field outside was fading, showing the metal walls behind it. But a new shape appeared in the center of the room, an object, floating above the floor. It looked like a small sphere, covered in light patterns that moved gently across its surface. Ryan reached out slowly. The sphere floated into his hands, warm and weightless. The ship spoke again. Key restored. Path unlocked. Awaiting destination. Kalira stepped closer. I think you've just activated something. Something bigger. Ryan looked down at the sphere. Do you think this is part of the ship? Kalira studied it. Maybe, or maybe it's part of you. There was a long silence. Not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels full. Like the calm before something important begins. Ryan looked up at her. What do we do now? Kalira smiled slightly. Now, we listen, and we follow. The soft hum of the ship grew a little louder, like it was waking up more with every passing moment. The walls around them shimmered gently, and the hallway behind them changed shape, now forming a new path. The ship was no longer silent. It had remembered its purpose. It had found a voice, and it had chosen someone to carry that voice forward. Ryan and Kalira walked side by side into the new corridor, leaving the chamber behind. Somewhere deep in the ship, all systems began to glow. The journey had begun not just for them, but for the ship, and whatever secrets it still held. And far above the mountain valley, for the first time in centuries, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The corridor ahead was different from the rest of the ship. The lights were warmer, softer, almost golden instead of blue. The walls had smooth curves, and the floor seemed to adjust with every step Ryan and Kylyra took, as if the ship was gently guiding their path. Neither of them spoke for a while. There was too much to think about. Ryan still held the glowing sphere in his hands. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, just as the ship did. It didn't feel like an object. It felt like it was watching, listening, waiting. He looked at Kylyra, who walked beside him, eyes moving across every detail of the new passage. She was quiet, but her mind was clearly working quickly. "I think it's opening more because of you," Ryan said after a moment. Kylyra glanced at him. "Maybe. Or maybe it's because now you carry something it trusts." They walked until they reached a wide, open room. It looked like a garden, but not one made of plants. Light flowed through the air like mist. Strange shapes floated around them, shifting patterns that looked like stars, roots, waves, and memories, all at once. It was peaceful, calm, and completely unlike anything either of them had seen. "This is not a control room," Kylyra whispered. "It's something else. Something older." As they stepped inside, the light patterns responded, gently circling around them. Ryan held up the sphere. The floating shapes gathered near it, glowing brighter. Then, slowly, a structure began to form in the center of the room, like a tree made of light. Its branches reached toward the ceiling, each one glowing with a different rhythm. Kylyra walked around the tree, watching closely. "It's alive," she said softly. "Not in the way we are, but in a way that matters." Ryan stepped closer. The moment he reached the base of the tree, the ship spoke again. But this time, it wasn't a single voice. It was many voices, softly layered together, as if speaking from across time. "You carry the signal. The path returns." "We remember." Kylyra stood still, listening. "The ship is remembering more." The tree of light shifted, and new images formed in the air. People walking beneath tall towers, ships moving through fields of light, groups of different beings working side by side. The images moved quickly, like a dream. Then, slowly, they began to change. Towers empty, ships drifting, beings turning away from each other. And finally, the tree dimmed, and the room grew quiet again. Ryan looked at Kylyra. Something happened. Something broke the connection between all those worlds. She nodded. "And I think this ship was meant to find the way back." The sphere in Ryan's hand pulsed once more. The ship responded by opening another passage, one they hadn't seen before. The tree of light bent slightly toward it, as if pointing them forward. They followed the new path. As they moved deeper into the ship, Kylyra began to notice something unusual. The walls no longer looked the same. They showed reflections, memories of people walking through them. Not just any people, humans. Some looked like Ryan, others didn't. But they were all connected to something greater, something ancient. Ryan stopped in front of one reflection. The figure in it looked almost exactly like him, but older, wearing different clothes, standing at the center of a large circle with stars all around. He turned to Kylyra. "This can't be me." Kylyra looked closely. "Maybe it's someone before you, someone from your world. Maybe your kind has been part of this longer than you think." They stood in silence, staring at the reflection. It didn't speak or move, it just remained, like a reminder of a forgotten past. Far ahead, the soft hum of the ship changed slightly. A soft sound echoed down the corridor, kind of tone, like a chime calling them forward. The new room was smaller than the last, but it felt important. The walls were covered in soft light, and in the center was a large surface, almost like a pool, but made of glowing mist. As Ryan approached, the mist pulled back and revealed something beneath it. A map, but not of the galaxy. It was a journey made long ago. Each stop along the path glowed like a memory waiting to be revisited. The sphere in his hand floated above the map and gently touched one of the glowing points. The room filled with soft sound, like music made from wind and water. Kylyra stepped closer. "This is where the ship came from," she said. "It's retracing its journey." Ryan stared at the map. "And maybe it's asking us to finish it." The lights in the room grew warmer. The map shifted, slowly drawing a new line, one that led outward, toward a part of space neither of them recognized. Then the voice returned. "Final path available. Connection required." Kylyra looked at Ryan. "It's asking for a choice." Ryan nodded. "It wants to know if we're ready to follow it." The silence stretched between them. This wasn't just a ship waking up. It was something bigger. It was a message from the past, a hope for the future. a journey that needed someone to begin again. Ryan looked at the map, then at Kalira. We've come this far. I think we need to see where it goes. Kalira smiled softly. Then let's go. As they both placed their hands near the glowing surface, the map grew brighter, the music swelled, and the ship responded with one simple signal, a pulse of light that reached through the halls, across the valley, and into the stars. The journey forward had just begun. The ship was no longer waiting. It was preparing. As Ryan and Kalira stood beside the glowing map, the entire room began to shift, not with movement, but with a soft change in energy, as if the ship had taken a deep breath. The lights became calmer. The walls no longer showed distant memories, but instead focused on one path, a new one. This path wasn't made of stars and places, it was made of possibilities. The sphere in Ryan's hand slowly returned to his chest, floating near his heart before gently dissolving into a soft glow that rested under his shirt. He didn't feel fear. He felt something deeper, like the ship was now part of him. Kalira stepped back and looked around. I don't think this ship is taking us somewhere, she said thoughtfully. I think it's asking us to become something. Ryan didn't answer right away. He watched the shifting lights, thinking, this journey wasn't just about reaching a location. The ship was leading them through steps, stages, lessons. Each room, each moment, revealed something deeper about the past, the ship, and maybe even about themselves. A door opened slowly behind them, wider and brighter than any before. Beyond it was a chamber they had not seen yet. Unlike the others, this one was circular, quiet, and filled with a low, golden light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. In the center was a platform with three glowing shapes. Above it, simple, floating objects, a stone, a leaf, and a droplet of water. Each hovered gently, turning slowly in the air. Ryan approached them, but didn't touch. What are they? He asked. Kalira stepped beside him. I think they're symbols, parts of something, maybe a test. The ship spoke again, softly. Connection is not chosen. Connection is understood. Ryan turned to Kalira. I think it wants us to understand something about ourselves before we can move forward. Kalira looked at the objects closely. The stone doesn't move. It's strong but still. The leaf floats. It bends with the wind, and the water, it changes shape, always flowing. Ryan thought for a moment. Maybe it's asking which one we are. Without warning, the objects merged into a glowing ring, and a soft pulse spread through the room. A new projection appeared, showing Ryan and Kalira as they were, but as energies, not physical forms, but the ideas they carried: curiosity, memory, choice, and unity. The ship was not measuring strength or power. It was showing balance. Kalira spoke quietly. Maybe this ship wasn't meant to be used by one person. Maybe it needs to. One to remember, one to choose. Ryan looked at her, surprised. You think we're both needed? She nodded. Yes, that's why it waited this long. That's why it showed us everything together. As they stood before the platform, their reflections made of soft light began to glow brighter. The ship was responding again, but differently this time. Not to their actions, but to their understanding. The objects above the platform returned, now joined by a fourth, a tiny sphere of light, pulsing gently. Ryan reached out. So did Kalira. The moment their hands hovered near the sphere, the entire room changed. Not with lights, but with feeling. A memory was shared with both of them at once. But it wasn't a picture or a story. It was an emotion. They felt the loneliness of the ship during its silent years, the quiet longing to connect, the patience, the hope, and finally, the joy when it found someone who listened. Tears welled up in Kalira's eyes, not from sadness, but from something else, a deep kindness, like hearing the voice of someone who had been quiet for too long. Ryan whispered. It wasn't just waiting, it was trusting. The platform beneath them glowed brighter, and the ship spoke one more time. Connection confirmed, purpose aligned, ready for journey. A gentle movement began under their feet. The room slowly rose upward, not fast, not loud, just a quiet lift. The walls turned clear. They were moving to the top of the ship. Outside, the sky had changed. Stars twinkled above, but not the same as before. A soft mist filled the air around the valley, glowing faintly. The people of Kalira's world were gathering below, watching. No one spoke. They simply stared, as if they knew something was happening, something sacred. Kalira looked out at her world, and then at Ryan. If we go, We may not return the same. Ryan nodded. Maybe that's the point. The top of the ship opened slowly, revealing a sky full of stars. But now, they no longer looked distant. They looked like invitations, open doors. The ship was ready, and now, so were they. The ship hovered gently above the valley, surrounded by a soft glow that shimmered in the night air like stardust. It made no noise, no sudden movement, just a calm, steady rise as if it were not leaving the world below, but simply lifting into the sky with quiet permission. On the surface, Kylira's people watched in silence. No fear, no confusion, only wonder. They had lived alongside the silent ship for generations, and now, for the first time, they saw it breathe, move, and speak through light. It had been part of their world for so long that it almost felt like family. And now, that family was rising into the stars. Inside the ship, Ryan and Kylira stood in the highest chamber, the sky above them turning darker with each moment. The stars, once tiny and far, now stretched wide across the view, like lanterns hanging in a great ocean of black and blue. The ship's walls slowly faded into clear panels, offering them a full view of the universe beyond. Neither of them spoke. There was no need. The silence was full, not empty, but filled with meaning. Finally, Kylira broke the silence. Do you think the ship knows where it's going? Ryan looked at her, then at the stars. I think it's going home, and it wants to take us with it. The ship responded with a soft glow along the floor, forming a path that led to the very center of the room. A console appeared, not with buttons, but with waves of light that responded to movement and thought. It looked like a dance of stars, slowly turning, waiting for direction. The voice returned, calm and quiet. Final course available. Destination chosen by connection. Kylira stepped forward and touched the light, not with her hand, but with her presence. The ship responded gently, showing a path through space, one marked by glowing points of memory. Each point represented a place the ship had once visited, long ago, before it had gone silent. Ryan stepped beside her. These aren't just locations, he said. They're places where something was shared, something was learned. Kylira nodded. They're not waypoints, they're promises. The ship highlighted one of the points as small, unnamed, system in the far edge of the galaxy. It was the farthest from any known world, a place forgotten by maps, and yet, the ship pulsed gently when that point appeared, like it was remembering something important. Ryan whispered, "That's where it wants to go." Kylira looked at him. "Then that's where we'll go." The moment they agreed, the ship shifted, not with speed, but with certainty. It didn't rush forward. Instead, it began to move with perfect grace, flowing upward through the sky, past the clouds, beyond the atmosphere. But as the stars grew brighter, the planet below began to shrink into a soft blue and gold circle. The people watching from the surface saw the light rise into the night, like a star being born. The journey had truly begun. Inside, time felt different, not slow, not fast, just calm. The ship showed them more along the way. As they traveled, it shared images of old worlds, once full of life, now quiet. Stories of beings who built with light and shared knowledge through feeling, places where thought and nature moved together. It wasn't a story of loss, but of stillness, waiting to be remembered. Kylira sat quietly, listening to these shared memories. They weren't trying to rule anything, she said. They were just trying to stay connected. Ryan nodded. Maybe that's why the ship chose to wait. It wasn't looking for power or answers. It was looking for someone who would listen. The ship's light changed again, this time softer, golden. It was nearing the destination. Ahead of them was a system of 3 suns, orbiting one another slowly, their light blending together like morning mist. And in the middle a small world, untouched, glowing softly. The ship slowed as it approached. It didn't land. It simply hovered above the surface, watching, sensing. The planet below had no cities, no machines, just oceans, forests, light, and wind. But even from orbit, Ryan and Kylira could feel something. A quiet presence, a sense of welcome. The ship's voice returned one last time. Final connection complete. Memory returned. New cycle ready. Ryan turned to Kylira. Do you feel that? She closed her eyes and nodded. Yes, it's not the end of a journey. It's the beginning of one. A soft beam of light formed between the ship and the planet, not as a transport, but as an invitation. The ship had done its part. It had found voices willing to understand, hearts ready to remember. Now, it was their turn to decide what came next. Ryan looked at Kalira, and she looked back. Without words, they both stepped into the light. And as they did, the ship remained in orbit, silent again, but not alone. It had fulfilled its purpose. It had shared its truth. And now, it watched as the new journey began, guided not by old commands, but by something more powerful. Understanding. Connection. Hope.